Put yourself in the following position. You've been married for 20 years. Everything has been great. It's been really happy. You're in love. However, you then find out that your partner cheated on you when you were dating. Well, that, as we're about to see, is exactly what happens to this man, and he decides that he needs to go through with a divorce. Before we get into this one, make sure you are subscribed to my channel so you never miss any more crazy stories like this one. Let's get straight into it. Am I wrong for ending a 20-year marriage because I learned my wife cheated on me while we were dating? This was originally posted on January the 8th, 2024. My wife, who is 44, and I, a 43-year-old man, have been married for 20 years. We started dating in high school when I was a junior and she was a senior. We were long distance for her first 2 years of college while I was in high school and did 1 year at community college. Then we went to college in the same city for a year and have lived together since. We got married the summer after I graduated college. Now, our marriage has been pretty great so far, but I initiated a divorce after I discovered that she was sleeping with multiple other men for the 2 years we were long distance. Just after Christmas, we got together with a few friends of hers from college to catch up, have dinner, and hang out. We talked about a lot of stuff, and my wife mentioned that we met in high school. Not that we dated, just that we met. Her old college roommate commented that it was crazy that we met in high school, had a few wild years in college, then ended up together. I played along and commented that I didn't know if my wife was as crazy as I was. The roommate started to tell a story, but my wife cut her off and said she was uncomfortable about it. I sensed something was up, so I said that we actually started dating in high school and were together for my wife's entire time at college. All of my wife's friends got real quiet and the rest of the dinner was awkward. On the way out, one of her other roommates took me aside and said that I should have an honest conversation, that's in quotes, about what happened at college. So I asked my wife on the way home and she kind of blew me off. I told her it was important that she was honest with me, and again, she said it wasn't important. When we got home, I told her I was going to stay at my brother's house until she was ready to talk about what happened in college. The next day, she came over and admitted to sleeping with several men during her first 2 years at college. She said she didn't consider it a big deal at the time because we were long distance, and she didn't think a high school romance would last. I pressed for more details, and she said it was at least 10 different men, including at least 3 guys she introduced to me as friends when I came to visit on weekends, and one guy that she was still in contact with. I told her that I wanted a divorce and would be starting the paperwork as soon as I could, which I did on January the 2nd. Wow. Her family and most of my family is telling me I shouldn't throw away my marriage over a few mistakes. I've stood by my belief that cheating on me with multiple men for years is unacceptable, no matter when it happened. And the fact that she continued to maintain relationships with these guys right in front of me was an unacceptable amount of disrespect. We have 2 children, but they are 17 and 19, and I believe they will understand why I need to end the marriage. Am I wrong for leaving? I feel like I'm going crazy with the amount of people telling me to overlook years of infidelity and decades of lies. Now that is the end of the original post, but OP has added in a few edits to answer some common questions. First of all, he says, the reason I posted this is that my wife and a few friends have been saying it's common to sleep with other folk when you're in a long distance relationship, and that I'm kind of the odd one out for not sleeping around. Okay, that is crazy. I felt like I was being gaslit, but I wanted an outside perspective. We live in a state with a waiting period to finalize a divorce, so I felt it was a reasonable idea to get some insight before things are finalized. After these comments, I see a handful of folk saying it's normal to sleep around during a long distance relationship, but it seems to be a significant minority. Yeah, obviously. He then says, we saw each other a couple of weekends a month during the 2-year college period. I lived about 3 hours away from her college, so it was long distance, but not like cross country. This was not a situation where we went months without seeing each other. The 3 guys I met while she was in college were meetups that happened during parties. The subject of me being a boyfriend didn't really come up, so I honestly don't know if these guys knew anything. The one guy we're still in contact with married a mutual friend from college. This is not some guy she secretly messages on the side, it's somebody we've talked to regularly for years. I've talked to him a few times since I've learned about my wife. He said he didn't know we were dating at the time and has since blocked her on social media. Wow. Some people have asked how the roommates didn't realize at our wedding that the timelines didn't work out. Now, the main reason is that my wife and I had a very small ceremony with just close family in Texas, then went back to the East Coast to have a big party with friends. The typical reception or sharing of details about how we met stuff didn't really happen, so her roommates didn't realize we started dating before college. It sounds like they thought we only dated for the year we were both in the same city, then moved in together. He says he was open to therapy or some kind of attempt to save the marriage, but her insistence that this whole thing is common and I'm the one who's out of line is just too much for me. The only time she showed any remorse or even offered to reconcile is when I started filing paperwork. In the last week, she's gone back to saying she's right and I'm overreacting. This is also while I feel like I'm being gaslit. It seems obvious that this is a major issue, but I've got my wife and others telling me it's normal and I'm overreacting. Also, I'm not getting a paternity test unless my kids want one. I don't have any doubts that they are biologically mine and no test will make them not my kids. I love them more than anything in the world and my wife's infidelity won't change that, even if one or both of them is not biologically mine. They've been my kids for 19 years and they'll be my kids until I stop breathing. He also says we were definitely exclusive at the time. First, dating culture was a lot different 20-ish years ago, and exclusive was kind of the default for most people. Second, we had a long and difficult discussion before she left for college about continuing the relationship long distance. She specifically wanted to stay together and even joked about her dad coming after me if I started sleeping around with girls at my school. Finally, at my senior prom, she was not able to attend and was very upset when I proposed going with a platonic female friend of mine. As a result, I ended up skipping my prom and hanging out with her instead. While we never said the word exclusive, I think the above reasons, combined with the general relationship before she left, are enough to assume exclusivity. And finally, based on some comments here, I followed up with the friend that said I should have an honest conversation. She told me that, quote, 10 guys would be on the low end, and that her biggest concern was that there was apparently at least one pregnancy scare that I didn't know about. I honestly don't really think that changes much. It's less about the number for me and more about the fact that she seems incapable of recognizing why this was wrong or why I feel betrayed. Okay, wow, what a roller coaster of a first post. Let's get straight into the update posted on February 5th, 2024. I want to provide some updates here as my original post got a lot of traction. First, let's talk about the things I learned about the situation in college. After talking to my wife in sessions and texting with two of her roommates, it's clear that her roommates knew something was up in college. They said they thought the situation was weird and likely involved cheating. My wife had told them that we both had some wild times in college and worked it out before we got married, so that's why they never really brought it up. The roommate who pulled me aside recently was uncomfortable with the fact that my wife clearly didn't talk it through with me and wanted me to know. As far as being introduced to guys that she slept with, apparently that was not intended. For one of the guys, he ended up dating and then marrying one of our mutual friends from college. This is the guy she was in contact with. In the other situations, she initially blamed me in a counselling session we've been to, but has now agreed it was bad. When I went to visit her, she planned to hang out in the room or just hang out together alone, but I wanted to go to a few parties, as in high school and community college, I didn't really have any to go to. She didn't expect me to meet those guys, but they were at those parties, and she felt she didn't really have a choice. Now, I still think this is kind of trashy, but not as bad as her intentionally parading me in front of them. Most of our discussion in therapy has been talking about why I think it's a big deal and she doesn't. She initially said that none of these guys were in relationships with her and it was mostly one-night stands or friends with benefits. Since she didn't view them as romantic relationships, she didn't see the big deal. Those are her words, not mine. Now that is absolutely ridiculous, by the way. Just because you don't see yourself as being in a romantic relationship with somebody that you're cheating on your boyfriend with doesn't change the fact that you're cheating on your boyfriend. How dumb is she? Anyway, OP continues. My opinion is that we never said that was okay and she actively prevented me from doing the same. Yeah, exactly. After digging into this across 2 sessions and my wife talking to some friends, she now agrees that it was a breach of our trust/relationship. Wow, well done. She finally grew some sense. What an idiot. This is the shared understanding that has helped us talk about the situation more honestly and helped us get from arguing to talking, which is why I'm optimistic about co-parenting. Now, this is why I'm 100% set on divorce. 2 things came up that make me want to leave the marriage. First, about 10 years ago, we went through a really rough patch and had a dead bedroom for about 2 years. She had expressed that our sex life was becoming boring, so I tried to spice things up. Nothing crazy, just roleplay and like Spencer's gift level sex toys. Apparently, she had been hung up on some sexual experiences that happened in college that she's not comfortable talking about and wanted me to try them. But when I did it, it made her feel awkward and guilty that it made her think of other men while she was with me. The fact that she's saying these experiences were meaningless, but they're still impacting our marriage, tells me they meant more than she wants to say. Second, she admitted that she's been flirting with co-workers on business trips since the pandemic ended. Oh my god. She says she's never slept with anybody, but it got as far as going on a date with one of her male co-workers. That was the absolute deal breaker for me. Absolutely. I mean, that just is cheating, and that is obviously grounds for a divorce. Oh my gosh. We've told our kids that we're getting a divorce. We told them it was due to some bad decisions that we made in college that we're having trouble moving past. My 19-year-old, who was in college, asked me if I cheated on my wife while she was away at college. My wife got a little shaken up, but admitted to the kids that she is the one who did it. We've agreed not to share any additional details with them. I reinforced that both of us will be there for them and that we're in therapy to help make sure we handle this in the best way for the family. I also told the kids that if they wanted to talk to either of us or a therapist about it, I'd fully support it. We've started talking to a mediator about how to proceed with the divorce, and unless things change, we should be able to have an amicable one. We're both financially stable on our own, we've got no major debts, and our kids are older, so custody isn't a major issue. This has been a bad couple of months for me, but I'm doing okay now, and I honestly am grateful that my last post blew up because it both validated some of my feelings, but also motivated me to go to counselling with my wife. Okay, and that is it for the first update. Let's get into some comments. Somebody said, "Sorry, but this is for the best. She's been keeping you in the dark for over 20 years. Quote, she says she's never slept with anybody, but it got as far as going on a date with one of her male co-workers. If you believe this, then I got a bridge on Mars to sell you. Dead bedrooms for young couples usually mean someone is getting somewhere else." Ooh, I didn't think about that. That is a very, very good point. And I agree, actually. If she's going to the extent of admitting that she's going on dates with co-workers, then who knows what else might have happened. She probably doesn't want to go a step further and admit to the full truth, which we can all probably assume happened. Wow, that's crazy. I didn't even think about that, but to be honest, yeah, I'd say I'm 99% confident now that that has happened. OP replied, "I don't really believe it, but I also don't think it's worth it to dig into more. I'm getting an STD panel done to make sure I'm safe, and I really don't need to know anymore, because if it was just a date, we're getting divorced. If it was more, we're still getting a divorce. Pushing the issue won't do anything but make it harder for us to co-parent." I'm also reasonably sure that she was cheating during our dead bedroom situation. We were having sex like once every 2 months, and we usually have sex 2 to 3 times a week. Again, I have enough to know it's time to move on, and me digging more into it will only make the divorce harder. And finally, someone asked, has she even apologized for everything she put you through? Especially the part where she went on a date with some jerk. OP says, before our counselling and at the first appointment, she was not apologetic. That to me, guys, is just so mental. In the second appointment, the focus was for me to explain the effect it had on me. She has expressed remorse and apologised repeatedly since that session. It's too little too late, but she's not some kind of emotionless monster. Are you sure about that? Insert John Cena meme. To do this to you for so long, I'm not sure. She just might be. Okay, and now let's get into the final update. This was posted actually a long time after the first update and original post. Just a few days ago at the time of recording, May 21st, 2024. Hey guys, this is likely the final update on this account as things have mostly resolved. My wife and I have completed our divorce and everything is official. We had an uncontested, amicable divorce with minimal disagreements. Our lawyers worked together to create the plan through mediation, and a judge signed off on it a few weeks ago. In the end, the actual divorce process was pretty straightforward. The only complication was that our 17-year-old was adamant about me having custody because their relationship with my ex-wife has really fallen apart as a result of this. Yeah, good. Initially, my wife dug in her heels and was ready to give up on the uncontested marriage, but my son pretty much told her she could choose between letting him have a break for a few months to process and rebuild, or force him to live with her until he turns 18 and then risk never seeing him again. I felt this was a bit harsh, but my wife backed down and we moved forward with me having primary physical custody until my son's birthday later this year. For my part, I've encouraged my son to be open to fixing things, as the actions my ex took before he was born didn't change the 17 years she cared for and loved him. Yeah, that might be true, okay, but he doesn't know the full story and the fact that she was continuing to cheat on you during your relationship, during the time she has been his mum. OP continues, fortunately, as the divorce moved forward, he's been spending more time with my ex, and I'm optimistic they will work through this. Does he need to know the full story? That's what I'm asking myself right now. I kind of feel like he does. It's probably not for the best, but I don't know. He's getting the wool pulled over his eyes if he thinks this just happened when he wasn't alive when you two were in college. It's just not true. Things have been going well for me personally. Both of the kids spend most of their time at my place, and we're still very close, which was my biggest fear in the divorce. I've got a new house that I really love, and I gave in to the midlife crisis urge and traded in my outdated minivan for a Lexus LC 550. I even had a woman at work, not a close co-worker, invite me out for a coffee date. Now, while I was upfront with her that I'm not ready to date just yet, she said she'd be happy to take a rain check and would be happy to go out with me when I'm ready. I'm honestly thrilled, because she's really smart, has a great sense of humour, and our positions at work are far enough apart that we don't really work directly with each other at all. My ex and I are continuing to go through couples counselling together. We've transitioned into having closure on our marriage and making sure we maintain our relationship enough to be effective co-parents. While these sessions have been great to help me process things and keep things as healthy and positive as possible, given the circumstances, it's also reinforced that divorce was the right option. It's clear from some answers in the sessions. My wife immediately started dating once the divorce process started. So whatever love there was, clearly was on the way out already. I'm pretty sure the co-worker she was just friends with dropped her off at our recent session. The fact that it doesn't even really make me mad is a good sign that I was also probably done with the marriage. In the end, it will take a long time for me to heal from the betrayal, but I feel like I'm making good progress, and I can honestly say that the divorce was unquestionably the right decision. I probably cried more in the last 4 months than I have in the last 20 years, but for the last month or so, I felt genuinely good about myself for the first time in a long time. I'm enjoying having my own life. I've been busy getting my 17-year-old ready for college in the fall and looking forward to a coffee date with a smart, funny woman in a month or two. Well, it's good to hear that this story has, I guess, as happy ending as we could possibly have hoped for. If you, OP, are kind of already realizing that you might have been a little bit checked out of the marriage, I mean, clearly she is, but we don't care about her. But if you're realizing that as well, and it's not as painful and not too much of an ordeal as you probably expected it to be, as you say, that is a good sign. And yeah, if the future looks bright, I'm happy for you. And you know, I still am not entirely sure about the kids' relationship with their mum moving forward. You guys let me know in the comments what you think about that and whether they deserve to know the full truth. Maybe it's not really for the best, but I just feel like there's so much there they don't know about, which would massively change their opinion on their mum. But whether that's the right thing to do or not, I'm not sure. You let me know in the comments down below. But yeah, that is going to do it for this one. Really hope you guys enjoyed.